The Washington Commanders win their fourth straight game with a total domination of the Cleveland Browns, 34-13. We've got a total recap, reaction, and analysis here on Ref the District. It's for real, folks. Let's go!
Yeah, it's Ref the District. Come on now and join us.
Let's go.
I gotta change back. Greetings and salutations to the Ref the District. I know there's a lot of noise going on right now. This is what happens when you're live all the time. Crazy things happen, but I'm the stoner. That is Trev over there. Where's Trev? Trev's over here. I got one more thing to fix here. All right, let's go. It's an instant reaction of the Washington Commanders 34-13 victory over the Cleveland Browns. We've got a whole lot to talk about. Everybody's already fired up. I know I'm fired up, Trev. I know you're fired up. We were all fired up before we got started in here. We got a few little house cleaning things to take care of. Thanks to everybody who's joining us. Make sure you hit that like. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you're listening on audio, I don't know why you're not here live, but we appreciate you listening on audio. Make sure you download. Make sure you hit the like and all the audio stuff. I'm so fired up. I can't even think straight. Let's get through this one little part. We are brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Think you know your stuff? Get in on our $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200,000. When the game's over, head over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 game slots. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Bet online. The game starts here. Let's talk all about this awesome game for the Washington Commanders, Trev. We've got a lot to cover in this game. We're going to do it a little bit different this week. We're going to go through each quarter kind of separately and talk about what was happening all on both sides of the ball, special teams, and all that good stuff. But first, Trev, we got to get our overall feelings. This team is 4-1.
Yes.
I think we can say at this point now, Trev, this is real. This is happening. This is a good football team. And it's okay. It's okay now to get excited, Trev. What was happening throughout the day in Trevland as you're watching the Commanders annihilate the Cleveland Browns?
Cleveland's really bad.
Oh, they're bad.
Cleveland is really bad. I'm surprised at how we performed. I'm surprised at our defense. Our defense, I think, kind of outshined the offense, even though we put up 34 points. But I think our defense is the story of the game.
Defense was
we held Deshaun Watson to 6 points. I don't count that garbage time touchdown because it was garbage time, but it is what it is. 34-6, spreading the ball around. Defense flying to the ball, forcing turnovers. We got 7 sacks today on a mobile quarterback. It's insane. I know I don't seem like I'm that excited. It's just unreal right now. It's kind of surreal. Yeah. I'm not used to this. I don't want to get too excited and have, the season slip away, but I am pretty pumped. We're 4-1. I think we are semi for real. I think we're on the right track to being super for real.
Yeah.
Next week will be a truer test, but today was a big test. You had Myles Garrett. You had Jock on the other side who was making plays for the Cleveland. Pretty much the only person on Cleveland making plays, both offense and defense, was Jock. Yeah. And he got hurt a little bit at the end. So we're 4-1. Great home turnout. There was no Cleveland Brown fans there, hardly any of them there. The ones that they showed had bags over their heads. The place was rocking. Jayden Daniels, I think this was his most rookie-ish game he's had, and it still wasn't even that bad of a game. He still played pretty spectacular. It's just overall, we're here. We're 4-1. We're here.
I mean, it's exciting all the way around, obviously, for a lot of different obvious reasons. We talked a little bit about this possibly being a trap game, right? Because you're coming off 2 straight road wins. You're coming home. Everybody, and I mean everybody's talking about Jayden Daniels. They're talking about the Washington Commanders and how good this team could possibly be. And then next week, you have the possibility of looking forward to the Baltimore Ravens on the road. That, like you said, that's a big game for this franchise. And so this is the perfect trap game. And yet they didn't fall prey to the trap, and that's a testament, I think, mostly to the coaching, but it's also a testament to the players and the leaders in the locker room and not allowing everyone else to fall into a trap like that. I want to go over some of the overall stats here real quick. The overall stats for Washington: Jayden Daniels was 14 of 25 for 238 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. He was sacked 3 times. He didn't have his most efficient day overall. 14 of 25 is not great completion percentage, but look, 14 completions for 238 yards. You're doing some work, right? He also led the team in rushing, both in attempts. He had 11, and yards. He had 82 for a 7.5-yard average. And also you had B-Rob, who only had 7 carries for 18 yards, but 2 of those were touchdowns. Jeremy McNichols had a touchdown. He went 7 for 44. Austin Eckler went 6 for 87. Of course, Terry McLaurin went 4 for 112, and De'Ami Brown went 2 for 57 and the touchdown. Defensively, they were everywhere. Frankie Louvu, I mean, just give him the defensive player of the week honors right now. 2.5 sacks, 2 tackles for losses, 3 QB hits. He was absolutely everywhere today. On the other side of the ball, I mean, Deshaun Watson was horrific. 15 for 28 for 125 yards. 1 touchdown, was sacked 7 times. And just a couple of team stats I want to get to, in that Washington outgained Cleveland in total yards, 434 to 212. They more than doubled the yards of Cleveland. And, of course, Washington rushed for 215 yards. Time of possession was fairly even, but a lot of that came in the fourth quarter when Washington was kind of playing a lot of backups. We saw Mariota, of course. We saw Bryson Tremaine in the game. We saw a lot of that. So it was a heck of a game all the way around for Washington. And Trev, let's go all the way back to the first quarter. Okay. And in the first quarter, Washington led 7-0. They weren't that good in the first quarter, especially offensively. Defensively, they were pretty darn good. But offensively, Jayden Daniels was 5 of 10 for 85 yards with that interception at the goal line. Let's not forget that interception he threw at the goal line in the first quarter. And he had 3 rushes for -3 yards. And so, but they were still up 7-0. What was happening there in the first quarter, Trev, that you liked and that you didn't like?
Oh, man, I like that we bounced back after that interception. But it was sloppy. We were playing down the competition, it felt like. I think Tress Way made an appearance in the first quarter, which is something unusual. It's been for the past 4 or 5 games. Yeah, it was not very fundamentally sound. We weren't making plays. We were just kind of just out there on the field. It was sloppy for both teams. Sloppy start.
Yeah, it was a little bit of sloppy start, but I want to look at a couple of things that happened in that first quarter. That throw that Daniels put on Terry McLaurin, that 66-yard pass on the run, Trev, he was rolling. He didn't stop and throw that ball.
No.
He threw on the run and threw a dart to Terry McLaurin.
Yep. Sure did. Kept his eyes downfield, something that he was trying to work on since week 1, and you can see the improvement. He just launched that thing, and Terry just made a good, beautiful catch. Almost scored, but beautiful catch.
And the defense was playing extremely well. Cleveland had the ball, had a 4th down play that Washington stopped fairly easily. But then Washington goes down the field, and Jayden Daniels throws that interception right at the goal line. JOK, great play by him, by the way, for a linebacker to make that sort of pick. But also the defense right after that, Trev, the defense stepped up and forced a 3-and-out.
Yep. We had them deep in their own territory because he made that pick on the 1-yard line. And our run defense showed up today. Jonathan Allen was making plays left and right. Fedarian Mathis was in there. Deron Payne. So, yeah, our defense was an actual defense. We didn't allow any mistakes.
Yeah, it was an excellent hold there, knowing that Cleveland had made an emotional play to stop Washington from getting that touchdown. Like I said, impressive interception by JOK. JOK, who, by the way, we all lobbied for Washington to draft instead of Jamin Davis.
Yes.
He's a player. Imagine him in this defense.
He's a player and a playmaker. Yeah, I know.
Washington had the ball in that first quarter, and they had a fourth down. They had a fourth and one of their own, or a fourth and two, I think it might have been. And they went for it. Do you agree with that decision to go for it? That was the play that Eckler converted with a great move, by the way. Do you agree with that decision that they went for it that early in the game?
I do. I like this aggressive stop by Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury. Let's keep pounding it. Don't settle for anything. And that makes it, converting that, we are now 8 for 8 on fourth down conversions, first in the NFL. That's insane.
That's insane that Washington is 8 for 8, still 8 for 8. I mean, the fourth quarter, I barely paid attention. It was kind of boring, right? Because it was already over by then. But I think it's still 8 for 8, which is incredibly impressive. So it was 7-0 Washington. Jayden Daniels at that time was only 5 for 10 for 85 yards.
Yeah.
Of course, 66 of that coming on the one play.
Yes.
But that counts. It still counts, right? And they were 1 for 5 on third downs in that first quarter.
Yeah.
Not great.
No.
Let's see. At that time, Deshaun Watson was 3 of 9 for 22 yards in the first quarter. And their leading rusher was Deontay Foreman, who had 4 rushes for 4 yards. Washington did an incredible job. What was their weakness this whole year coming in was running up the middle, running up the gut, right? And Washington was having none of it this week.
None of it. No matter who was back there, Jerome Ford, Dante Foreman, Sean Watson. The middle was a no-through zone the whole entire game.
Which is great. It's different, right? It's different to have this.
Heck yeah. That's what I'm saying. Jonathan Allen showed up, finally.
Oh, Jonathan Allen was everywhere. And we've already talked about it, Frankie Louvu. And I shorted him, of course, that fumble recovery that he had in the second half as well, which was a great play. So he had 2.5 sacks, 3 quarterback hits, 2 tackles for losses, a fumble recovery. He was everywhere.
A menace.
And after a slow start to the year, Frankie Louvu, right? He has really come on strong, and he has been the leader of this defense for a while now, and it's great to see. We talked about this Wednesday on our live show, and if you haven't ever checked out Ref the District live on Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, basically everything that they did this offseason, draft or free agent signing, has turned to gold, minus Michael Davis at corner.
Exactly. I agree. Noah Igbenogaba, he had another pass deflection on they locked Amari Cooper up this game. Amari Cooper was frustrated. They locked Jerry Jeudy up. They locked Elijah Moore up. They locked all the receivers up. Even Njoku didn't have a game. So our secondary stepped up this game, which just when we thought we were ready to throw them all in the trash, they've started to come along here this last couple of games.
I think that what can be true are two kind of opposing thoughts. One is this defense played lights out this game.
Yeah.
And also, Cleveland's offense is really bad. They don't have any direction. Deshaun Watson is bad. Both can be true, though, Trev. The defense played great, and Cleveland's offense is really bad.
Yeah, it definitely can be true. Because this was the kind of game where Deshaun Watson and the weapons he does have, because he does have a couple weapons. They just didn't have a game today. They haven't been performing all season. And the way our defense is played, they could have come out and really stuck it to us if they wanted to, because we had the dog check guy on here on Wednesday, and he's talking about how Deshaun had a really good game last week, and if it wasn't for that holding penalty, that touchdown would have counted to Amari Cooper. And he looked better last week than he did this week. So, but hey, our defense stepped up and nullified all of that.
Let's go to the second quarter, Trev.
Yeah.
Tressway, remember the punt that Cleveland had down to the 1 yard line, right?
Yes.
Flipped the field.
Yeah.
Washington couldn't get it kind of out of their own end there and had to punt. And Tressway had a very average punt.
Yes.
And Cleveland had kind of a short field, and they couldn't do it. Couldn't do anything because, again, Frankie Louva was everywhere, had another sack. And it's just in that second quarter really is where Washington put the screws to Cleveland on both sides of the ball. They really just started dominating. The offense started clicking. The defense was everywhere. Eckler was playing great. That play that he had, that run where he got all, I don't remember how long the run was, and then he fumbled. 57 yards, and then he fumbled.
Yeah.
But Zaccheaus was there to recover that fumble. I mean, that play was awesome. That was a oh my God, go, and then it was like, oh no, and then it was like, oh, we got it, right? I mean, all the emotions on that one play.
Yeah, it's great to have Eckler back. Looked like he didn't miss a step after missing last game with that concussion. Looks like it didn't phase him at all. So makes you wonder how serious it was, but just had to go through the protocol. So I'm glad he's back. He is a weapon.
He is a difference maker on this team.
Big time.
You can see like Jeremy McNichols comes in and he does his job very well, but he's not Austin Eckler. And made this comment, Trev, and tell me what you think of this. Even though Austin Eckler has been doing this for a long time, right? This is probably year 8, somewhere around there for Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler is what we all thought Antonio Gibson was supposed to be.
I saw you tweet that. I agree.
Right?
I agree. Yeah. I mean, different offenses, of course, but he was still supposed to be that guy we can depend on third downs, the guy that can depend on picking up first downs, the guy that we can depend on being a certifiable pass catcher out of the backfield, which he was to a certain degree, but he had trouble keeping and holding on to the ball. He was kind of turnover prone. But yeah, Austin Eckler is everything we want to give you to be. So I agree.
So they had the 3rd and 13 in the second quarter. It was a 3rd and 13, and I think Greg Olson even said it on the broadcast. He said, "Look, they just need to get 7 or 8 yards to make the decision easier to go for it on 4th down."
Yes.
And we threw that completion to Zaccheaus, who made a couple of nice little moves, and turned that 3rd and 13 into a 4th and 2.
Yep.
Which of course they went for it. Jayden Daniels with the great scramble. 30-some odd. That's the thing that is the difference between Jayden Daniels and most any other quarterback in the NFL. There are a few like him, but what he can do when the pocket breaks down, when the play breaks down, and he can outrun any defender. And get around that corner and get the first down and even more. And it's so impressive that he was able to do that. And then, of course, through the touchdown to Diami, there was a Diami sighting, Trev.
I know. I'm loving it. He's starting to come along. I guess Cliff was like, okay, we got to get Diami some love. It was a beautiful route, beautiful ball, untouched, touchdown, Diami Brown. Beautiful.
I mean,
right before the half, too.
Was just so perfect.
On point. Dropped it right in the bucket. Right in the bucket.
Diami doesn't break stride.
No.
He's right on that sideline so that if Diami doesn't get it, nobody's getting it.
Right.
The accuracy is unbelievable. And by the time the halftime comes around, Washington is up 24-3. And we're already starting to think about resting starters. We're already starting to think about the Ravens. We're already starting to think about, are they going to bring in Jameis Winston? But at half, Jayden Daniels was 11 for 21 for 166 yards with the 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and he was sacked only 1 time. Of course, Eckler had 2 rushes for 60 yards. And at halftime, of course, B-Rob had 2 touchdowns already by the halftime. And defensively, Louvu already had a sack and a half. Allen had a half a sack, and Bobby Wagner had a sack. And this is all just in the first half. And, of course, McLaurin had 3 for 89, and Diami had that 1 touchdown. Halftime, Trev, 24-3.
Yep.
Are you chalking this up already?
What do you mean by talking this up?
Chalking this up. Are you talking it as a dub at halftime?
That's game. I said they might come out and score and make it 24-10, something like that, but we'll get the ball back and score again. But yeah, I was like, this game's over.
Yeah.
In Madden, it's over. You're down 21. You don't
Yeah.
score. You got to pass the sticks, bro. So it was over.
That's it. And on the other side of the ball, of course, the total yards were 283 to 67 at halftime. 283 yards to 67. Washington had 13 first downs to Cleveland only had 3. And one of those was on their first offensive play of the game to Njoku. So they didn't do nothing the rest of that half. Third down conversions at that time, Trev, Cleveland was 0 for 8 at that time.
Yes, they were. We were like what? What were we?
At that time, we were 4 for 10.
Okay.
On third down. But we were 2 for 2 on fourth down, and they were 0 for 1.
Exactly.
And
we were up 24-3.
Yeah, up 24-3. And Washington only had 1 penalty in that first half for 5 yards. And Cleveland had 6 for 37. That's what happens when you're a bad team. You have penalties. You have dropped passes. You have delay of games. You have timeouts that you shouldn't have to take.
Yeah.
You have a Deshaun Watson leaving the field when there's 18 seconds left on the play clock and it's 4th and 1, and he just doesn't want to go for it, I guess. I don't know that play.
That was wild. He just walked off to the sideline like, yo, I'm not doing this.
Trev, I got a serious question for you.
Okay.
Did Myles Garrett play today?
Yes, he did.
Okay. I didn't see him.
He was out there.
I didn't see him. I'm going to check
Shout
the
out
stats.
offensive line for that.
Yeah. Let's see the stat sheet for Myles Garrett.
Yes.
He is not even on the stat sheet. He did not register a statistic today at all.
No QB pressure, no QB hit, no sack.
Nothing. 0.
He must be hurt.
0.
He's hurt.
I do not see his name anywhere.
That injury's for real for him.
Tony Brown II had a tackle. Myles Garrett did not.
Who's Tony Brown II?
I have no clue. And that's kind of the point. He had a tackle and Myles Garrett did not.
That's wild.
And shout out this offensive line, like you said, Trev. They played very well again today. There were a couple of plays where they got overwhelmed, and that happens once in a while. But overall, excellent play by the offensive line. Let's not forget Myles Garrett. Yes, he has his injuries, but this is the defensive player of the year, the reigning defensive player of the year, and had 2 sacks last week with those same injuries.
Right.
And I think he had 2 sacks and 2 tackles for losses just last week.
Mm-hmm.
So he's playing.
Yeah.
He was fine.
Leave that there. He was fine.
Third quarter comes along, Trev. First play of the third quarter. You remember what happened in the first play? What happened, Trev?
Terry McLaurin fumbles the ball and causes panic for the whole entire stadium and fan base.
Did that scare you?
Yeah, a little bit. I was a little jarred. I was like, oh boy, it's not the start. I think I even tweeted, not ideal. We don't want to come out second half starting like that and give them the ball in our territory. But paid off. We held them to a field goal, I think it was, 24-6.
Forced a field goal. Yep. They got down a little bit, but forced a field goal.
Shout out to the defense again for stepping up and holding to that. That's that bend, don't break defense. They didn't break at all today. They barely even bend, to be honest.
Agreed. That hit on Watson for the sack, that was Dorrance Armstrong right under the chin. Love to see that.
The Mikey Sanders hit on Watson scrambling out of bounds.
Mm-hmm.
He's 5'10", a $110 soaking wet.
Yeah.
And he just levels Deshaun Watson and causes a bit of a tussle over there.
Yeah, and what I liked was all of the commanders who got over there, but nobody did anything stupid.
No.
Right? They didn't swing. No. They didn't commit any sort of dumb penalty.
Chill out. Back up off of us.
That's right. That's right. And that was the sequence where they were down, where Cleveland was down at the goal line. And first they had a false start, and then they had they had to call a timeout. Then they had the Jerry Jeudy dropped
Oh,
pass. Look,
yeah,
Sanistrill flashed right in front of his eyes just as the ball's going by. It's the NFL, brother. You got to catch that.
yeah, that's a touchdown.
You got to catch that. Then you had the miscommunication. That's when Watson walked off with, I believe, he starts walking off with 18 seconds left on the play clock.
Yeah,
And a 4th down, and they had already burned one timeout. And they didn't want to burn another one,
exactly.
so they went ahead and took the delay of game and kicked the field goal.
Yeah.
Shout out one time to Dustin Hopkins going 2 for 2 on his field goals.
For real.
I liked Dustin Hopkins. Never should have cut him.
I like Austin Seibert.
Oh, that's true. Good call. Good call there, Trev. And then Washington gets the ball back after that field goal, goes right down the field. Jeremy McNichols gets a touchdown. What's kind of as sloppy as the Commanders were on offense, Trev? Yeah. This is a legit Cleveland defense. Okay, this is not a defense that has been struggling. Their offense has been struggling. Mm-hmm. But their defense is not. I'm looking for here's their defensive rankings coming into the game. They were 11th in total defense, giving up only 299 yards per game. And then Washington went out there and put 434 yards on them. This was a defense that was 10th in passing, right? They were only giving up 175 yards per game. Washington put them up for 219. And they were 17th in points, only giving up 21.8. Not only, that's middle of the pack. 21.8, and Washington put 34 on them.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy. It's like the defensive stats switched. You would have thought we had those stats by the way we played today, but no, we were pretty much DFL and all those defensive stats. So it's just incredible.
At the end of the third quarter, it was 34-6 at that time, Trev. I'm not going to go over too many of the stats other than I want to show that Deshaun Watson at the end of the third quarter was 11 of 24 for 100 yards and was sacked 5 times. And Washington led them 403 yards to 149.
Just a mollywop.
And then, I mean, like I said, in the fourth quarter, there wasn't really anything to watch there.
No, right? I did see, though, when Mariota came in and took that snap and was scrambling, he almost conceded a safety, but he threw the ball away. And I was like, yo, he's awful.
And you know, it was crazy when you watched that play, right? When he scrambled out to the right. And this is a guy, let's not forget, Mariota is a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback who was known as much for his legs as he was for his arm. And it's totally different when he gets outside the pocket when you compare it to Jayden Daniels and just how quick Jayden Daniels gets around those corners and everything, and how Marcus Mariota can't do it.
Yeah, he cannot do it. He's slow. He is so slow. But I want to give credit to somebody who said it was slow, Mr. Step. Bobby Wagner. He came to play today.
Yes, he did.
So
Bobby Wagner came to play today. I mean, the whole defense came to play today. You can shout out Bobby Wagner and Luvu, of course, and Dorrance Armstrong, and John Allen was all over the place as well. Sanistrill had his best game as a pro. What stood out to me is, again, either Deshaun Watson is really bad at football, or Washington did such a really good job on defense that Watson had nowhere to throw the ball.
He didn't.
So the secondary was covering really well, and that allowed for 7 sacks.
Yeah, I agree, because he was looking downfield. He wanted to pull the trigger a couple times, but defense got to him before he could. And I do think that's because of the great coverage downfield on some pretty good receivers that they have over there. So shout out to the secondary.
Yeah,
sure.
The secondary was really good. I mean, Forbes, I guess he played. Did Forbes play? I mean, we never saw him.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, because Deshaun barely threw the ball to anybody that was open.
I'm trying to look to see if Forbes got in on the stat sheet today.
We'll look at stats play too when it comes out, probably.
I don't see him anywhere on the stat sheet.
He played though. I'm pretty sure.
That's good.
Yeah, that's real good. That is real good. I'll take it.
But in that fourth corner, you saw Yankoff was out there playing. Michael Davis even got some run. Mikal Walker was out there, Michael Walker, however it says.
Mm-hmm.
Kevon Seymour was out there. I remember seeing him on the sideline. I was like, I have no idea who that is.
That's that practice squad player we brought up from the Ravens.
Yeah.
Where we signed
Yeah, that's what I mean, though.
We elevated him today. Yeah.
Who is that?
What? I don't know.
Brian says, don't think Forbes played. But I mean, he played last week, and he played pretty well last week.
Yeah, he did. He wasn't on the inactive squad, but he still might not see any snaps. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's tough.
We'll have to look at the
and
snap
did Defoe play? He just played special teams, huh? He didn't really come in on any defensive snaps, did he?
I don't think so. I didn't see him anywhere.
I think he took Tyler Owen's spot, which is pretty much special teams. So.
Yeah, just pretty much special teams. You're right. So let's talk about, I mean, again, we're not going to talk about the fourth quarter because that was just a total annihilation. Let's kind of go from defense to offense. Let's talk about who really stood out defensively for you, Trev.
It's a bunch, but I'm going to have to go Frankie Lou. Well, okay, I won't do Frankie Lou because that's obvious. I'm going to go Dorrance Armstrong and the rest of the defensive line. Defensive line. They stopped the run. They got after Deshaun. They made Deshaun uncomfortable. He didn't know which way to run. He didn't get any scramble yards hardly. And we sacked him 7 times. And we didn't really – I mean, we might have blitzed a little bit with Frankie Louvu, yeah, for sure. But, like, for the most part, it wasn't any exotic blitzes. It was just straight-up pass rush from the defensive line that allowed Frankie Louvu and Bobby Wagner to get in there. I mean, at one time, Wagner blew up the running back, tried to block, and then they just shoved him into Deshaun Watson for a sack like that. So it was like they were just ruthless today. So I'm going to go the whole defensive line because the past few weeks they've been putrid in the run game. And today, other than the fourth quarter, but we had scrubs in, they showed up big time. So
let's hear from those who are in the comment section as well of who you guys thought was really showed out defensively today. We'll get to the offense here in a second. But look, Mikey Sanistril, I thought had his best game of the year. He was flying around as well, along with Frankie Louvu is one of those who, like you said, Trev, that's an obvious one, right? Frankie Louvu was everywhere. He's going to be nominated for Defensive Player of the Week with those 2.5 sacks, 2 tackles for losses, 3 quarterback hits, and a fumble recovery. But Sanistril was out there, and really this defense is doing what Joe Witt and Dan Quinn promised this offseason. Arrive violent.
Do that.
And that's what they've been doing. And they've been putting some hurt. Cooper went out, I think, twice for injuries. Deshaun was rattled big time.
Yeah.
You know, they were putting some hurts on some dudes this game.
For sure. And I was about to say something else, but I just slipped my mind. Oh, shout out for Darian Mathis too. A lot of people were calling for his job and why is he in there? Why is he in there? Today he showed the reason why he's in there. He had a bunch of run stops. And I think he got his hand on the ball one time too. It was a pass. He got a deflection too. So yeah, shout out. So defense that just falls in line with the defensive line for me.
Yep, absolutely. As Dougford says here, is Igbinogbini, however you say his name. We called him in the offseason. We called him Igba Just a Jag. But I apologized for that last week. I think he's making some plays. I'm still really starting to like him. He's a very physical corner. He's going to struggle with the big boys, but who doesn't, right? He's been playing well against, guys who are not the big boys anymore. Trev, let's move over to the other side of the ball, and let's talk offensively about who stood out. Let's separate Jayden Daniels because we're going to talk about Jayden Daniels all by himself here in just a minute. But let's separate that and offensively what you liked about this game.
Wow, there's a few. I like Jeremy McNichols. I liked Austin Eckler. Yami Brown showed up. Luke McCaffrey showed up a little bit. I mean, it's just the offensive line, I guess I'm handing to them because for the most part, they allowed these running lanes to open up for Eckler and McNichols. I mean, Eckler's jump cut on that 4th down.
Yeah.
The 2 tight ends, Sinnott and Bates, set that up perfectly. And he was running literally towards them and then just cut perpendicular up the field to get a few more yards.
Yeah.
It's so many flowers to give out on offense. I think the entire offense played well. Terry McLaurin's becoming more of a wide receiver one as the weeks go on, and it just goes to show that it's all about the quarterback that it's thrown to him, which is crazy. So yeah, I don't have just one, but if I do, it's going to be offensive line, just because of the way they allowed so much time for Jayden back there to make some throws and the ability for him to escape the pot. That one where he snuck through Jayden, I think it was like third quarter, he snuck through like a space this big.
How did he get through there?
I have no idea. I thought it was a sack.
I said sack, yeah.
I was like sack. But shout out to the offensive line to configure that pocket for him to do that. If it wasn't for these pockets, Jayden wouldn't have any scramble yards. So offensive line today.
Yeah, offensive line was really good. And we talked about it in the offseason that we thought that the Tyler Biadasz signing was secretly or quietly was a great signing, that he was an all-pro center and nobody's really talking about it. I mean, he has been awesome. There are not many teams who can put their center out pulling on certain plays. You know, they're not athletic enough to be able to get outside quickly and be able to pull. And you see him pulling on a lot of these plays. He has been awesome. He's been everything that we'd hoped for when they signed him. Allegretti's been really good. And again, they've been doing things offensively with Cliff Kingsbury that you're not exposing this offensive line. We're not exposing their weaknesses, Trev.
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree. It's screen game, it's play action, it's hand the ball off, it's some quarterback draws. It's good. They're not having Jayden drop back 30,000 steps. They're not having the wide receivers run these long routes that take a long time to develop down the field. Yeah. It's just a quick offensive game, no huddle, hurry up. It's just crazy to me how Jayden can look over and then just do a couple hand signals. And there's no huddle. And the offensive line is just like not even looking at him. They're just listening to what he's saying or just watching his hand motions and getting down and making their assignments and executing their plays. That's just wild to me to see that, especially with a team that's brand new, still trying to gel and get some cohesiveness to it. But you can see it each week. O-line's playing well and more well each week because they're gelling to become more as one. And it's just crazy to see because I didn't expect that with all the new faces on this entire team, especially the offense.
Yeah. So Noah Brown didn't play this week because of injury. Didn't miss him.
No, didn't miss him.
I mean, maybe there were a couple of plays that they couldn't put in that could have been executed better if he was in there. But I mean, Diami stepped up with 2 catches for 57 yards and a touchdown. McCaffrey had 3 for 19. Like you said, you shouted out Luke McCaffrey and his blocking, as a bunch of people were pointing out as well. His block on that B-Rob touchdown run was fantastic. When a lot of times when you're out that far on the edge and you have a running play, a receiver tends to relax because there's no way this running back is going to make it all the way out here. The play is not designed for all the way out here on the edge, but sure enough, B-Rob bounces it out there and breaks a tackle. And if he doesn't make that block, if Luke McCaffrey doesn't make that block, B-Rob doesn't score.
I agree. And it's crazy. I think you said earlier you counted the carries. B-Rob had 7. You said Eckler had 7. McNichols had 6.
McNichols had 7.
7.
Eckler had 6.
Okay, so that's what, 20 runs all game? And Jayden threw the ball 25 times. That's balance.
Nice balance.
B-Rob scoring touchdowns. I don't care if it's 1 yard or 10 yards. He's getting some tutties. I think he's happy with that. So.
How many does he have this year? Does anybody know?
Oh, no.
He's got to have 6 or 7 at this point. After 5 games, it seems like he gets 2 every single game, but he's obviously playing really well. He did not play in the second half at all, I don't believe.
At all.
So that's something to keep an eye on because he was questionable coming into the game with a knee injury. He ended up playing. So that's something to keep an eye on for Washington with Brian Robinson and his injury concerns at this point. He has 5 touchdowns this year in 5 games.
Yep. Yes, sir.
That extrapolates out to 17 touchdowns. Obviously, I can do that math won a game. So he played well in the first half, didn't have a whole lot of runs, like you said, only the 7 runs at this point in the game. And then we talked about Eckler. We talked about Jeremy McNichols coming in and doing his job, 7 for 44. That's a 6.3 yards per carry.
I got a little nervous.
When?
Zach Ertz made me a little nervous this
game. Okay. Tell me why.
It seems to me, it's another game where he made a catch and took a couple steps and fumbled the ball. Luckily, this was called incomplete today. But that seems like that's like that's what he does.
Yeah.
I feel like this game he showed his age a little bit more. He wasn't as open as he's been. He wasn't as agile as he's been. That one where Jayden floated the ball over on his vertical route, Zach Ertz 3 years ago would have caught up to that and caught that, ran for a touchdown. But instead, it was you could see the age showing up. But
I think so.
He was a little making me nervous this game, but he's still a great tight end, still a vet. He's still a leader in the locker room. He's still a weapon for Jayden Daniels. So, but I was a little nervous.
As Brian says, the radio crew said no injury designation, and they probably just rested him for sure. For sure, they definitely rested him. Yam popping in to say he just wanted one word, and that's Luvu. Shout out to Yam also, who has finally declared that he was wrong about Jayden Daniels. It took him 5 games, but he finally said, okay. I was wrong about Jayden Daniels. He is actually awesome, which is awesome. At some point, we all do it. We all have our bad takes, right? I've had plenty of them, but if you don't have a take at all, then you're irrelevant. So you got to at least have a take something. So shout out Yam for having a take, standing by it for as long as he possibly could, and then finally just saying, all right, I'm out on the Jayden Daniels is not very good crowd. So let's talk specifically about Jayden Daniels then. This was probably, the Tampa game was a little rough for him, but this was not one of his best games. But he was able to overcome some of his passing issues with his legs.
Yes. He was still a key factor in us scoring points and us winning this game. And I think it shows too that he doesn't need to have incredible stats in order for us to win the game. If you can just manage the game and dish the ball out to his playmakers and his gamers and let them do the work, that's all we ask. Use your legs when you have to, and it's exactly what he did. You can see he wants to throw the ball. He really does. He does not want to run first. But he knows he's got weapons for his legs, and a little stiff arm too. And he can, like you said, just get around that corner and take off. He can evade big defensive linemen. I mean, Jock had a unblocked, and he just did a one little move and just made Jock look like a floppy fish, and he went right up the sideline for that 41-yard or 27, however many yards it was. So it's just awesome to see that we don't need him to be Superman. We don't need him to be 90% completion percentage and this and that and all these touchdowns. If he could just manage the game and dish it out like he's supposed to, good things will happen, and that happened today.
Yeah. He was. His accuracy wasn't on point, but big plays were there. That throw in the first quarter to McLaurin was sick.
Yes. And then he threw another one. Terry just dropped it in the end zone, didn't come down with it.
Yeah.
Beautiful throw. That was on Terry, and Terry knows it, but it's all right. He's still 34-6 is cool.
Yep. That pass to Diami was perfect. Threw it on time, accurate into that corner, in stride for Diami. And what was interesting is if you see the play before when he dropped back and McLaurin ended up scrambling out to the right and getting however many yards he got. I don't know what it was. And on his way back, he said something to Cliff Kingsbury because he was out of bounds on that side.
Yes.
Right? He said something to Kingsbury.
Yes, he did.
Probably something like, something to the effect of Diami's going to be open.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, let's call that play. Call the play.
Call that same play.
Call it again. Yes.
Yep. And maybe
I saw that too.
the play before that, maybe he missed Diami.
Mhm.
He should have thrown it. He said, let's do that again or something.
Let's do it again.
Run it again. And then he throws that beautiful pass. That was really interesting to see him say that to Cliff Kingsbury on the sideline. So shout out Jayden Daniels. He overcame, again, his final stats were he was 14 of 25 for 238 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. He was sacked 3 times for 17 yards. And he also ran the ball 11 times for 82 yards. And a few stats to point out here, Trev. A few very interesting stats to talk about. The last time Washington led an opponent at home at Northwest Stadium, formerly known as FedEx, by 28 points or more was in 2015. That was the last time Washington has done that. Washington is the first team since 1970 to score 150 plus points in their first 5 games with a rookie QB. Think about these stats that we're talking about right now, Trev.
Jayden Daniels is the first quarterback ever to throw for over 1,000 yards and rush for over 250 yards in the first career 5 games.
Yep. Ever.
I mean,
ever, Trev. This is, I mean, NFL has been around for 100 years or whatever it's been.
Yeah.
The Washington Commanders have been around for 90 plus years, and the league has been around forever. That's the first time that's ever happened in the history of the NFL.
It's insane.
Insane. In the first half, well, let me get to this one actually. Washington scored 30 plus points in 3 consecutive games for only the 8th time in its history in 90 plus years, and the first time since 2005. So almost 20 years since they've done that. Think about these stats.
Austin Eckler's 57-yard run was the longest run ever since Darius Geis's 60-yard run against the Carolina Panthers, I think in 2019. Darius Geis.
All right. Here's another. I had forgotten about Darius Geis. I hope he's doing well. Shout out Darius Geis one time. In the first half, Trev, Jayden Daniels faced 4 unblocked pressures, 4 plays where he had a pressure where a guy came unblocked. He converted all 4 into first downs. He's
so poised back there.
Yeah, he was 2 for 2 for 78 yards, right? One of those plays, of course, was the throw to Terry. And he had 2 scrambles for 36 yards. How do you defend this guy, Trev? How do you defend him?
I don't know. You keep hearing people saying, well, the more this happens, the more tape it'll be for him. That's cool. You can watch all the tape you want, but do you have the players to make the plays in order to stop this guy? You can watch film till the cows come home, but if you get out there in the field, it's different. It's different. So I don't know how you stop him. I really don't.
What better way to defend a guy than bring him unblocked?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you can, like you said, Trev, you can devise any sort of scheme, but even if a guy comes completely unblocked, it doesn't faze him. And he can either get around and run or he can get around and throw.
When Sedarius Smith got that sack, I was like, okay, it's Sedarius Smith. I forgot he was in the league. I forgot he was on the Browns. But then he came free again one time, and Jayden just gave him a little stiff arm, just enough to keep him at bay. Yeah. It's just amazing to see. He's just so smooth back there, so calm. You don't see any panic from him at all. And he's smartened up. He runs out of bounds now. He doesn't even try to attempt to slide. He just goes straight to the sideline. Yeah. So,
yep. And what Cleveland tried to do in this game is they tried to play tight man-to-man defense, bring a lot of pressure, and force Jayden to make a decision not on his first read, but on his second read or third read. It doesn't matter. And they had him a little bit, I don't want to say rattled, but they had him defensed fairly well in that first quarter, but eventually he's going to figure it out, and Cliff Kingsbury is going to help him figure it out, and they're going to score 34 points. They're going to score 30 points for 3 consecutive games.
And I want to give credit to the special teams too. Shout out Larry Izzo. Outside of the couple holding penalties we've got on the returns, our returns on kickoffs are are a lot better.
Yeah.
And our punt return game was a lot better.
Yeah.
We don't need Jamison Crowder back there. Zacchaeus is good. He's shifty. He's got nice blocks. So I think that's a big difference too. Because remember the days of Dax Milne just
Yep.
every punt, and then kickoff returns. It was like maybe 5-10 yards, and we start like beyond like past the 20 in our own territory.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a new kickoff rule. I don't know what it is, I'm gonna give credit to Larry Izzo because he's turned the special teams around for sure.
I think you got to give credit to him. I mean, look, Oz was back there on the ones he didn't fair catch for the punts, and he's doing what, for me, if I'm a coach on special teams on punt returns, you catch the ball and you go straight forward.
Yes.
There's no dancing around and all that. You just got to go, and that's what he did on one of those, and he got about 14-yard return, something to that effect. I don't know if it's in the stats here, but I mean, he had 2 for 33 yards. He had an 18-yard return and a 15-yard return. And Austin Siebert has
money.
He's 11 for 11 on field goals, I believe. He's made every extra point. Tressway, I mean, who cares about Tressway at this point, right? I mean,
yeah, his punts weren't that great, but that's because he ain't been punting. That leg is still cold. It's still cold.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, one of the things that we talked about before we kind of start wrapping this up a little bit, but one of the things we talked about is the turnover of this team, the personnel on this team, how they've got 17 new starters and they've got 33 new guys on a 53-man roster, and pretty much every one of those players are playing a role that's helping this team get out to this 4-1 start this year. 4-1. Look, I love Jayden Daniels from the jump, right? I said Jayden Daniels is the guy that they should draft and everything, and I didn't waver from that. Jayden Daniels is the guy. I did not imagine that this team would be 4-1 and putting up 30 points I did not think he was going to be this good.
Me neither, not even close. I thought he would wow us a little bit with this couple of plays here, couple of plays there, but he's not playing like a rookie. Like I said earlier, this was his most rookiest game he had.
Yeah.
And that's just because he forced that interception and his completion percentage wasn't as high as the previous games. But other than that, he was spectacular.
And it took an insane play by JOK to make that interception.
Yeah, it really did. It really did. It did. So.
All right, Trev, let's get to the Go-Gos and No-Gos. Let's start with No-Gos first,
okay,
so that we can end on a positive note. But who you got for your no-go in this game, if you can find
no-go?
I mean, it's hard to.
It really is. I'm gonna go with Zach Ertz.
Okay, yeah, you had a few criticisms for him.
Earlier. Yeah, he this wasn't his best game. Like I said, I think his age showed up in this game a lot more than the previous games. Second game in a row, he's caught the ball then dropped it after taking a couple steps. That kind of worries me. But if I have to pick one, it'll be him, just because he played subpar than what he has been all year. If it's not that big of a deal, because he still was blocking and still caught a couple passes here and there. But if I have to, Ertz.
Okay. I'm going to go with Trey here. Just Terry McLaurin for dropping the one pass and fumbling. Right? I mean, look, you got to find something. We're trying to find something. So I agree that I'll give my no-go for Terry for. I mean, that pass was exquisite, and he should. And 9 out of 10 times he catches that ball. I don't know why he didn't catch that one. And then the fumble on the first play of the second half could have been a little disastrous, but defense was up to it today. So, all right, Trev, who is your go-go for the game? And remember, you still have to do a Don't Sleep Energy player of the game. So save your main guy for that. But give me just some go-gos.
Jonathan Allen, Verdarian Mathis, Dante Fowler, Dorrance Armstrong. That whole defensive line just came to play today. We plugged the gaps for the run game. We pressured the quarterback, we brought him down some sacks. This is the best game the defensive line has played all year long. So I'm going defensive line as my go-go.
Yeah, they were really good in this game. I'm trying to think of who my go-go would be because, like you said, it's hard, but You'll take the defensive line, Trev. I'll take the offensive line. How's that?
Okay, that works.
Once again, the offensive line was really good to the tune of 200 was it 215 yards rushing for this team. They gave up 3 sacks. It could have been more if not for Jayden Daniels' athleticism.
Right.
So I'll go with the offensive line. I love Tyler Biadasz. I thought he played extremely well again. So he is my go-go. Trev, let's get to it. Let me take that off. Hang on, I'll take that off real quick. Trev, let's get to our Don't Sleep Energy player of the game. Don't sleep energy. You need to get hyped for this game or any game with the Commanders. Grab a Don't Sleep Energy shot. Or if you need to stay ready for the games on Sunday, grab a 12-ounce can of regular or sugar-free. You can get them now at don'tsleepenergy.com. Use the promo code DISTRICT. You'll get 10% off, and you'll be supporting a great local DMV company. Don't Sleep makes you great. Who is everybody's Don't Sleep Energy player of the game? Trev, you go first.
I'm going to go with the Oos himself, Frankie Luvu.
Yeah.
He set the tone for the entire defense. The entire defense responded to his tone, and he was arriving violently. Everybody followed suit. He was in the backfield almost every time Deshaun Watson took a snap.
Mm-hmm.
That man was playing lights out today. Frankie Luvu.
I mean, how can you not look at Frankie Luvu? Because again, he had 2.5 sacks, 2 tackles for losses, 3 quarterback hits, and a fumble recovery on that sack by Bobby Wagner.
Yep.
Look, I mean, Frankie Luvu is the obvious choice here. But hey, let's give a shout out to one Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson is my Washington Commanders Don't Sleep Energy player of the game. He's terrible. He's done. He's washed. He helped Washington win this game because of his horrific quarterback play. He couldn't throw it to anybody. He couldn't run. He didn't want to run. He blew off his coach on a 4th down and came off the sidelines with some 15 plus seconds left on the play clock on a 4th down play, forced them to kick a field goal. He did everything well for Washington. He had the fumble. He should have had a pick to Quan Martin, if not for Quan Martin stone hands. That's why he plays defense, but good play to knock that play down. But Deshaun Watson is my Washington Commanders Don't Sleep Energy player of the game. Trev, Washington is 4-1.
Yes, we are.
They've won 4 straight games.
That's crazy.
Regardless of what happens the rest of this week, number 5, with the Giants, with the Eagles. Well, the Eagles are off this week. And the Cowboys, they will still be all alone in first place going into week 6. And it's a big one, Trev. Week 6 is a big one. They're going to travel up the BW Parkway up to Baltimore to play the Ravens.
Yeah.
Right down the road from me, Trev.
Yeah.
It's not a fight, though. It's going to be a fight, and Washington's going to have to get ready. So we're going to get excited about that again. Thanks for everybody who dropped in here to watch our instant reaction here of the Commanders' 34-13 victory over the Cleveland Browns. We're live after every game with our instant reaction immediately following the game. We're also live every Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. on Facebook and YouTube. Of course, make sure you hit that like, hit that subscribe button. We are brought to you by the Believe Network and Bet Online and Don't Sleep Energy. Appreciate, once again, everybody who was in here watching this game or watching this instant reaction, Trev. 4-1. Any final thoughts here on this game and looking ahead?
On to Baltimore, baby. This is a big test coming.
Yeah.
Like the biggest test of the entire season. So
remember last year, the big test was week 3 against the Bills.
Yeah.
And we got absolutely smoked. What was the score of that? Was it like 40 something or maybe 38-3? I don't know.
Something like that. It was awful.
Yeah, but it's a little bit different this year. So
it is.
Yeah,
and they just went toe to toe with the Bengals, and we blew out the Bengals. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens.
And Baltimore did win that game against Cincy today earlier.
I think so.
I believe they won in overtime. So it's gonna be a big week around these parts. Oh, one other note real quick, Trev. I believe that the Washington Commanders do not get on an airplane to play a game until week 16.
I was looking for that. Yeah, I was looking
for
that.
Oh, you're looking for that tweet? Yeah.
Yeah.
So because you've got games either at home or like to Baltimore, that's just up the road, or you got bus rides or train rides up to Philly and New York, things like that. So Washington doesn't have to worry about plane rides. If I remember at the beginning of the year, Trev, they had the least amount of miles to travel this year out of every NFL team, and now it's starting to show up.
Advantage.
After Baltimore, you got what? Panthers, Bears, Giants.
Yeah.
Trev's getting real around here.
I know it is getting real around here.
It's getting real around here. Thanks again to everyone who joined us on this instant reaction. I'm the Stoner. That's Trev. We are brought to you by Bet Online and Don't Sleep Energy. And Trev, until next time,
Blue, boo.
be a fan.